对于一般的消费产品而言，市场定位跟市场区隔是一个非常重要的基本功。不过，市场区隔跟市场定位在新闻产业长久没有受到应该有的重视哈。那在现在的产业环境之下，我相信下一代的新闻从业人员必须对于市场区隔、市场定位要培养出一定的素养。那我们今天会先从另外一个产业的一个案例来看市场区隔跟市场定位，然后我们会回来看我们新闻产业里面发生的案例。那我们今天要举的另外一个产业的案例呢是 Gogoro 是最近非常有名的一个台湾之光它基本上有蛮多的创新。除了它是一个电动车对于台湾市场而言，它是一个创新的产品。那它更重要的创新呢是换电池一般我们对于电动车的概念就是没有电的时候就充电可是 Gogoro 的模式不一样 ，Gogoro 的模式是如果没有电的时候，我们就去换电池那从换电池这项服务以及服务网络的架构，基本上还可以生出许许多多新的服务模式。所以 Gogoro 除了是产品创新之外，它在商业模式跟服务模式之外也有很多的创新。不过有意思的就是 Gogoro 它在2015年第一季、第二季的销售成果其实不如预期，所以当时社会上有很多的评论因为树大招风嘛，当你受到很多关注的时候，很多人就会来关心你。所以当时有一些产业专家就说 ，Gogoro 它是走创新路线，是走精品路线，是走高科技路线。所以对于台湾的市场而言，台湾市场可能需要一段时间来教育消费者。所以 Gogoro 是不是选择错了它的起始市场？它的第一个市场可能不应该在台湾，应该在欧美，因为欧美的市场，他们对于高科技产品、对于精品的产品、对于高价位的产品、对于创新的产品，他们的接受度可能已经有一段时间了，就是说他们就可以省却市场教育的这段时间。所以是不是Gogoro 它的第一个市场不应该放在台湾市场，而应该放在欧美市场呢？接下来我们来看一段影片，接下来看完影片之后，我们再来做讨论。
About 3 years ago, we rode the Zero S, and it was a pretty nifty bike, but not the sort of one that does this to you.
What? I almost screamed like a girl the moment I let it out.
A lot's changed in 3 years. This is the 2014 Zero SR. Yes, R for racy. And you better believe this young battery-powered lady can hike up her skirts and boogie. How's this for the pace of progress? Compared to the 2011 model, it has 3.2 times more battery, almost 4 times the range, just under 2.7 times the power, 2.4 times the torque, and a 50% higher top speed. What you're now looking at is an electric roadster that feels about as small and flickable as a 250, but accelerates like a 600. The SR in sports mode just jumps out in front of traffic like a really shitty guide dog, and full throttle will get you to 100 k's an hour in just over 3 seconds if you can keep the back tyre from spinning up. For commuting, range is just not an issue anymore. My 25k trip to work drained less than 10% of the battery, and I was flogging it harder than a teenager whose parents have gone down the shops. It goes about as far on a charge as most sports bikes get on a full tank, but instead of $25 worth of fuel, you're using somewhere between $1 and $3 worth of electricity, depending on the time of day, or filling it up for free if you're plugging it in at someone else's place. 220 k's still isn't really enough for touring, but if that's what you want to do, I've got a special long-range touring solution just for you. The SR needs no servicing beyond tyres and brake pads. There's no oil changes or valve clearances or head gaskets or stones poking holes in the radiator, and there's also no emissions, which is great for the planet and all that, and the greenies will love it, but it also means those ever-tightening EPA and Euro emission standards have exactly zero impact on how your bike will perform. Petrol bikes are getting strangled by catalytic converters. Leaned off idles are making throttles snatchier than the hidden folders on your dad's laptop, and it's only going to get worse. Electric bike developers have nobody looking over their shoulder. They can put power everywhere, and you can have whatever power curve you want to program in. The SR steers and handles great. It accelerates hard, harder than you're expecting, and it feels so completely effortless that you go to full throttle all the time with no tinge of guilt or mechanical sympathy. You can program the performance and regen braking of Eco Mode through an iPhone app, and Zero is so confident that you've got power to spare that it's even chucked in heated hand grips and a cigarette lighter socket. This is the first electric veggie burger that I've ridden that can really tickle the taste buds of a hairy-chested meat eater. Just ask 2012 British National Natural Beard Styled Mustache Champion Matt Brown.
This is a fucking hoop. You can have some fun on this.
Take it around once more.
I just gassed it, like I went to the throttle stop and it just spun up and the back just started hailing everywhere. Hell.
Going electric is still super expensive. The SR costs a touch over 25 grand in Australia or 17 grand in the US. But the battery is now set to go 500,000 frickin' kilometres before its range drops to 80%. I don't know about you guys, but I typically park my bikes up trees or off cliffs long before that sort of mileage. This bike made me really question exactly what it is I love about motorcycles, because it strips so many things away that I thought were absolutely integral. The noise of an engine screaming its tits off, the smell, the vibrations that make a piece of metal feel like it's alive, the intimate understanding of your machine that you can only get once you've spent fucking ages fixing it in the shed. The Zero has none of them, and yet I absolutely loved it. So I guess for me, it must be the white lines, the acceleration, the speed. It's playing in traffic in the absolute confidence that my ride shits on your puny sports car from a great height. It's the purity of nailing a set of corners or punching holes in a constantly moving, evolving array of traffic. It's the danger and the opportunity. It's the ride. And I'm here to tell you, the Zero SR has got it in spades. It's a great bike if you want to save the planet, but it's also awesome fun if you think the planet's just there for your own amusement. Australian company Stealth makes electric bicycles. Not the kind that get you to work a bit less sweaty though. These things throw legal power limits to the wind in search of crazy off-road adrenaline. The original Stealth bomber makes around 4.8 kilowatts of power, or about 24 times as much as you're allowed to use on the road. It weighs in at 53 kilos, just over half the weight of a 125cc dirt bike, and if you pedal it at top speed and wind the throttle on, you're looking at a top speed of around 85 k's an hour and a range of about 80 k's all up. The lithium iron phosphate power pack is swappable if you're prepared to fork out the $2,000 for an extra battery, and it's rated for 800 cycles. The frame is aircraft grade chrome moly, and Stealth describes it as virtually indestructible. As such, they give it a lifetime warranty. Suspension is D&M coilover gear with a rear travel of around 10.5 inches and a front travel of 8 inches. Helping to keep the weight down is a carbon fibre handlebar and seat post. At just under $10,000 US, this is absolutely a premium product. But riding the thing is a pretty unique experience. Put simply, it hammers. You can always tell who's just had their first ride on a Stealth bike. They're selling this thing as halfway between a dirt bike and a mountain bike experience, and that's not a bad analogy. Think of it as a mountain bike, and it's a monster of a thing that makes uphills feel like downhills and generates truly terrifying speeds on a flat trail. Think of it as a dirt bike, and it's lighter, more physical to ride. It's totally silent, and it doesn't tear the tracks up as much, so it's not going to annoy your neighbours. The 9-speed sequential shift gearbox takes derailleurs and chain tensioners right out of the picture, so with the exception of the long life chain, you're basically looking at a maintenance-free fun machine. On a fast track, this thing is a beast. Your heart's pumping as much from the speed as it is from the leg workout. On a tighter track, maybe the throttle kicks in a bit too harshly, but it's still fantastic. Our bike wasn't really set up for jumping, but we threw it at a mini motocross track anyway, and we had a blast, even if it could have done with some more damping on the landings. There's certainly no complaints about these Magura disc brakes. The bomber stops really well. And you've got the option to hit this thumb switch and engage some regenerative braking at the rear wheel on any downhill descent. Between the dirt bike and mountain bike extremes, the Stealth Bomber definitely feels more like a mountain bike. On steroids. And amphetamines. This is a seriously fun machine with some pretty amazing capabilities.
看完这3段影片之后，相信大家对于我们所谈论的或者讨论的 GoGoRo 的问题，应该有一个初步的了解。我基本上可以再提供一些背景资料给各位同学。刚刚各位所看到的，除了 GoGoRo 之外，另外一台是目前在欧美地区非常受欢迎的电动机车，还有一款呢是目前也在欧美相当受到欢迎的电动脚踏车。好，那可以提供给各位的背景资料是。这3样产品，包括 GoGoRo， 它们的续航能力都差不多，就是充饱1次电之后，基本上可以1次充饱电跑100公里。那它们的加速性能其实也差不多从0公里到100公里，通常它的加速就在0到3秒或4秒之间就能够完成。包括那台小台的电动脚踏车那它们的极速呢？极速方面有一点不一样欧美流行的那一款电动机车呢，它是可以超过它的极速呢，可以超过时速100公里的。然后我们 GoGoRo 的极速是时速大概75公里左右。那欧美目前正在流行的那一款电动脚踏车呢，它的极速是时速80公里，所以它的速度基本上比 GoGoRo 又稍微快一点点。可是这些背景的参考资料其实还不是市场定位。和市场区隔，尤其对 GoGoRo 而言，很重要的一个因素。大家应该可以稍微体会到，目前在欧美的 电动脚踏车或者电动机车的设计风格跟东方的设计风格是不太一样的哈。欧美的产品的这方面产品的设计风格的元素或者灵魂，基本上走比较豪放粗犷的路线。好，那另外一方面 ，Gogoro 它基本上比较走东方路线，比较柔和圆润。好，那大家还可以知道一点，就是说，类似小绵羊相关的产品，其实在欧美市场它的接受度是不太高的。啊，所以其实大家可以知道，就是说，如果把 Gogoro 第一次就放到欧美的市场去进行销售啊，很有可能欧美的市场并不会把它定位为一台电动机车，因为在他们的观念里面，电动机车不是长那个样子的。啊，它有可能被欧美的消费者定义为是电动代步车。啊，所以那这样的市场就是就是一个僵固的一个既有观念，对于 Gogoro 的市场开发是非常具有杀伤力的，因为大家都知道，电动代步车跟电动机车，它们之间是有价差的，它们的产品定位是不一样的，所以非常有可能 Gogoro 一放到欧美市场，它的定位就被定位成是一个电动代步车。那这样对于 Gogoro 的市场拓展是非常不利的。第一个，欧美市场对于小绵羊相关的产品本来接受度就不高。第二个，欧美的消费者很可能一开始看到 Gogoro 的时候，并没有把它当成一台电动机车来看，所以它的价位对他们来讲，可能是总会比电动代步车贵这么多。所以对于市场开发来讲，其实也是非常不利的。所以就是说，我们回到一个重点，就是说为什么市场定位和市场区隔这么重要？就是当我们设计一个新的产品的时候，如果我们把市场定位做错了，把市场区隔做错了，那接下来的命运基本上都已经定了。也就是说，这项产品一定会失败，这项产品一定没有办法在消费市场上成功。好，所以我们现在先拿 Gogoro 来做一个市场区隔跟市场定位的一个案例。好，接下来我们来谈一下市场区隔跟市场定位的几个重要的原则。第一个原则就是做市场区隔跟市场定位之前，很重要的一个步骤呢，就是要做市场调查啊，就是对于我们接下来可能会进入的那个市场，要进行非常深入的了解。那是非常深入的了解，基本上有两个方面。第一个是这个市场里面的可能的竞争者是谁，他们目前经营的状况怎么样。第二个就是消费者啊，我们的目标消费族群，他们需不需要进行某种程度的市场教育？这些事情呢，如果没有调查清楚的话，可能会在我们产品开发的过程之中，无形中会增加很多很多的成本。第二个就是市场调查跟市场定位，一个很重要的目的，除了是了解目标市场之外，其实也是在了解消费者，就是我们刚刚所讲的。好，那了解消费者之后，我们基本上会定义出一群我们在产品开发初期的目标消费族群。接下来经由团队对于这些目标消费族群的进行测试、调整和经营。经过一段时间之后，我们盼望能够把这一些可能的消费者变成真正的消费者，接下来变成忠诚的消费者。那还有就是在做尤其跟团队里面一起在讨论市场定位跟市场区隔的时候，通常我们会鼓励大家用一个叫做刺猬原则。在商学院里面，我们接下来要讨论的这三项原则叫做刺猬原则。这刺猬原则是由斯坦福大学商学院所开发出来的，其实也蛮简单的，算是3个心法，大家可以参考一下。就是我们和团队一起在讨论新产品的市场定位跟市场区隔的时候，通常要思考3个问题。第一个问题就是我和我这个团队在我们所定义出来的区隔市场里面，什么事情我们是能够做到最好，我们能够很轻易的做出比我们的竞争者好很多很多的东西。第一个就是我们的强项，而且是我们的绝对强项，这是第一个要考虑的。第二个要考虑的，或者第二个要问自己的是，我和我的团队对这项我们正在进行的产品开发，是不是具有非常高度的热情？是不是具有非常高度的热情？第三个就是说我们目前所开发的产品或者专案， 它能不能够在目前的产业环境或者消费环境里面，很健康的、很持续的带来金流。好，这是我们平常在讨论市场定位和市场区隔，在团队之内讨论市场定位和市场区隔时候通常会用的3个心法。好，那第一个心法基本上它后面的意义就是了解自己。就是了解自己，就是说我们在进行产品开发、产品设计的时候，很重要的是要了解自己的长处，了解自己的短处。好，那第二个，是不是我和我的团队对这项东西很有热情？是因为在产品开发的过程之中，一定会遇到很多很多的挫折，甚至产品已经成功开发进入市场之后，你的假想敌也会做很多很多的动作来跟你竞争，所以在产品开发、市场拓展的过程之中，一定100%会遭遇到很多很多的挫折和不快乐的事情。这时候，如果你和你的团队对这项事情没有很高的热情的话，通常是支持不下去。好，那第3个是更重要的。好，我们之前有提到，就是说，当我们在进入一个产业的时候，目前基本上都是商业模式来控制这个整个产业的价值链。所以我们所做的东西，我们所做的专案，我们所开发的产品，是不是能够在现在的消费市场和环境里面持续的、很健康的对团队产生一定健康的金流，来支持团队做下一步的开发或下一步的拓展，是非常重要的。好，最后一个就是说，我们在做市场开发和市场定位和市场区隔过程之中，除了我们刚刚讲过的由斯坦福大学所开发的刺猬原则之外，基本上还有另外一个工具也是我们经常用的，就是把刚刚那3个心法已经走过一遍之后，得到结论之后，接下来我们在产业界里面经常用到的一个很简单可是力量非常巨大的工具，就是 SWOT 就是 SWOT。我们接下来会有一个专门的篇章来与各位讨论 SWOT， 怎么样来做 SWOT 才能够做出正确的 SWOT， 而不是做出一个错误的 SWOT。好，那接下来我们来看一看新闻产业里面的一个案例。那这个案例我们基本上会拿3个目前非常具有代表性的行动产品。第一个就是纽约时报的 APP， 第二个是 Yahoo News Digest， 它也是一个新闻的 APP。第3个是 Circa。好，我们来看这3个目前在新闻产业里面相当重要的案例。
It's hard to keep those New Year's resolutions, but Kit Eaton has 3 apps that might help you stick to them this year. Free on iOS and Android is the Astrid Tasks to-do list app. The app allows you to easily enter and modify tasks like hitting the gym or practicing the piano, then allows you to set repeating reminders that'll gently nudge you to make sure you're staying on task. Both versions of the app integrate with a cloud-based database, so you can sync goals on all your devices. If a daily reminder can't get you to exercise more, there's Fitocracy. Free on iOS, the app connects you to a social network of people who share similar fitness goals. By checking in to groups like cyclists and runners, users can post comments on their workouts and get feedback from other members. The app also awards you points and reward badges when you finish activities, moving you up on your group's leaderboard. A little competition from a friendly community may be exactly what you need to keep working out. Finally, for $1.99 on iTunes is Streak's Motivational Calendar. The app will keep track of the number of days in a row that you stick to a resolution, like working out. Each day you exercise, you can cross off that day on the app's calendar. It's much less sophisticated than the other apps mentioned here, but if you're pushed for time, this makes it ideal, because interacting with it is so fast. If all else fails, you could always rely on some old-school methods to remind you of your resolutions.
If you're like me, you probably find reading a newspaper quite hard, and you're lucky if reading one is just enough. We face these problems with our phones too. There are so many news apps to keep up with. They all have tons of text and literally contain infinite amounts of information. How can you stay on top of the news without being overwhelmed? Well, now there is Yahoo News Digest. Yahoo News Digest simplifies news. Keep up with the day's top stories with 2 daily briefings, one in the morning and one in the evening. These digests contain all the stories you need to know about, but don't worry, they aren't very long. Our news stories aren't like others. They are summarized visually, made up of atoms. Atoms vary from a financial graph to an interactive map to even beautiful infographics. Each atom is designed to make your reading experience ultra clear and intelligible. Our stories take the best from the entire web. We cluster articles from multiple publishers to make your reading experience comprehensive, effortless, and complete. This is Yahoo News Digest. Download the app today.
Yahoo!
Historically, the article has been the way that news has been presented. It hasn't really changed or evolved too much. We wanted to try something fundamentally different in the way that we presented news.
I think Circa is posing a really important question to the larger journalism industry. That question of what is the best format for different types of news.
Used to be that people would wake up in the morning, they would grab their paper, they would sit down with a cup of coffee, and they would consume the whole thing over 40 minutes. And today, you might be lucky to have 5 minutes while you're in line at Starbucks, and that's when you're going to try to read the news. In the case of Circa, we believe that shorter is better for us because we're on mobile. When you have that limited attention span to worry about, you want to be able to attract readers that are otherwise playing games on their phones. You kind of might think of it like a Cliff Notes where you're able to blast through one story very quickly, just maybe 4 or 5 points. If you're interested in staying up on that story, you can hit this button that we have that allows you to follow. And that's where the real innovation has taken place here. One of the most interesting examples of Circa's unique format really took place around the Boston Marathon. It was blindsiding everyone.
In fact, I remember very specifically, we started off as just a regular Monday, then we immediately kicked into gear.
Everybody had a lot of misinformation and no one was really sure what was going on.
Once we sort of identified that this was a real thing that had happened, right? We'd seen enough chatter about it. We could get one point up really quickly through the course of a week that evolved and ballooned.
There's so much background information that gets retold and retold and retold over the course of a news story, and we wanted to eliminate that entirely. There's always going to be people that are not too excited about, this particular format, where they would much rather have a long narrative. But the philosophy of Circa was to be able to make sure that we were able to convey as much information as possible, as brief as possible, and respecting the reader's time.